but I just think he's a really big part of some of the success that the Hawks have had. And if the Hawks had better team defense, I think he could really stand out a lot more in this category.
Welcome to part 2 of TV's end of regular season NBA awards with Tony Tucker of Project Drivel and also the Warzone Sports Network. Yesterday I posted part 1 where we discussed Russell Westbrook's historic accomplishment breaking the triple-double record, and we also talked about the first 3 awards of our award show, which was the Rookie of the Year, the Sixth Man of the Year, and the Most Improved. So if you haven't already, please check out yesterday's video. But today, we're going to be getting into some fun awards that I have planned, and we're also going to talk about the final 3 regular season awards, which are Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and the MVP. So, very exciting episode. Thank you guys for all the support. Remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other content. Show your love on all the podcast networks. Leave a review if you're on Apple, and show your support in any way possible on the other ones. And on YouTube, remember to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode. Again, thank you for Tony for coming on. And if you want to check out the Warzone Sports Network or his other show, I have their links down in the description. But without further ado, let me throw it back to myself and Tony to talk about these fun awards, the final 3 regular season awards. And again, just continue to show your support in any way possible, and I really do appreciate all of you. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's take a break from the usual awards. I did say at the top of the show that I was going to add like my own awards here. The 3 awards we're going to be discussing next is the most surprising team in a positive way this year, the most disappointing team, and also the highlight of the year. It's going to be a great 3 topics to discuss. We're going to start off with the most surprising team. And I'm going to go with my 3 candidates to start off with. Let's start off with the Utah Jazz. For me, I knew that they were a good team going into the season, but the way that they improved their three-point shooting and take it up to the next level to become the best team in basketball this regular season has just been highly impressive to me, and honestly, I did not see coming. The Phoenix Suns, I knew that they were going to be in the playoff mix. I have them as a great surprising team, but to be the number 2 seed in the West, I mean, the Chris Paul effect is like a running theme on this show, but it is real and it is definitely still in effect there in Phoenix. And then we just talked about Julius Randle to the New York Knicks. I had them as a borderline playoff team. I didn't even know if they're going to make it this year. And now they're like tied for the 4th or 5th place right now in the East. And a lot that has to do with Julius Randle, obviously bringing in Tom Thibodeau. But man, they have surprised me a lot. Tony, who are your 3 teams?
So we are right there. I think the Jazz, who didn't make my list, but I get it. So I have Suns, Knicks, and then the one team that you didn't hit on at all. For me, it's the Sixers being atop the Eastern Conference. And if you told me that Embiid was healthy the whole year, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. But they've been able to continue and sustain atop without Embiid being, playing all 68 games or whatever so far this year. So I really like what Doc has done. We'll see if it translates in the postseason or whatever. But I think just bringing in a new coach, Doc style, the team staying healthy, continuing to grow and be able to have a couple game lead in the East. The last time I checked, I'm not sure what it is now, but the last time I looked at it, they had a 2-3 game little gap between them and the Nets and the Bucks and stuff like that. So it's surprising to me. Maybe other people were like, oh, I knew the Sixers would be at the top of the East. Well, you're a liar. You thought it was going to be the Bucks and you thought it was going to be the Nets super team. So I think that's sort of my 3rd surprising team there.
Yeah. And honestly, they almost made it over the Jazz for me. They almost made it there. Doc Rivers has done a great job over there. Joel Embiid, obviously having the best season of his career is a big part of it. But just getting like the defense, one of the best defenses in basketball, Just knowing like what their strengths are and actually like go into those strengths has been a big thing for them this year, and that's a big reason why they're number one in the East. But my winner for this award has to be the New York Knicks. I'm not going to go too much into them because we did talk a lot about Julius Randle, but man, this team like going to the next level. I mean, just even talking about people like outside of Randle, Derrick Rose has been a great addition for them. RJ Barrett has taken a next step after not even making an all rookie team last year, but he has been great this year. You talked about quickly. Obi Toppin hasn't played much, but he has still shown some promise. And they're doing a lot of this success without their starting center and Mitchell Robinson, and they're still getting wins, which has been absolutely impressive as well. Nerlens Noel has had a revival there in New York. He has been honestly, like one of the best defenders to watch this year. And yeah, they're my pick for my most surprising team this year. Who do you have?
Well, that's the great thing about Thibodeau is he keeps it simple. So New Orleans Noel is going to be asked to do anything that he can't do, which is great. You know, it's why you get success from Pop and stuff. Since you took the Knicks, I'll send some love towards the Suns and Monty Williams and Chris Paul as the biggest surprise. I had the Suns as an 8 seed in the West, but to be pushing for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference I did not see this coming. Like what Chris Paul was able to do with the Thunder last year, and you're watching this team now. A lot of people are saying it's fool's gold. They're out in the first round in a 7-game series. This isn't sustainable. To me, it will continue to be Chris Paul's intensity and his ability to keep these guys focused and in the right spots, making sure their rotations are right. You know, extra ball movement, those type of things. So I would say the job that Monty Williams has done is, I would go ahead and I'll give it to the Suns as the most surprising team.
Yeah, I mean the whole Chris Paul thing. I mean, he took the Houston Rock, like he was a big part of the Houston Rockets being 1 game away from the NBA Finals. He took a Thunder team last year to the 5th seed in the West, which no one seen coming. And now what he's doing with the Suns. I mean, there's a trend here. Chris Paul is a massive part of that team, and yes, that is a very good choice for most surprising team. But let's go to the flip side. I mean, there has been some great stories in the NBA last year. Now let's talk about the disappointing teams. And Tony, let's throw it back to you. Who are your 3 most disappointing teams of this season?
Okay, so I'm going with the Wizards, right?
Yeah.
They have been strong at the end of the year, but the start was dreadful. They should not be in the situation they're in right now with Westbrook and Bradley Beal. And I don't think it's a coaching thing. Whatever, just trying to figure out how to blend with Russell or whatever. It just should have happened sooner. He didn't get a lot of practice time, maybe COVID, whatever. I don't know, but I had higher aspirations for the Wizards. I had the Wizards as a top 5 in the East, and they're struggling to get in on the back end of this play-in situation. Next, I'm going to the Pelicans because, come on, Van Gundy, you got a lot of talent over there. You're ruining Adam Silver's dream of having LeBron versus Steph in a play-in and Ja versus Zion in a play-in. You're ruining Adam Silver's dream to be greedy and steal a bunch of money to make up for the games missed and attendance and everything else. And lastly, the Lakers. And this is basically just due to injury. You know, it's like, in its injury management. Now, LeBron's is maybe not his fault, you know, but I just can't help but think that maybe he's not as stressed and whatever if he's not playing 40 plus minutes in 3 straight overtime games in January or something like that. Like maybe he doesn't sort of lackadaisically dribble in and somebody falls in. It's like injuries are freak and whatever. But this to me has just been the season of I thought players would be resting, but resting smartly, not resting out of necessity. And maybe I'm kind of in my feelings on this one. I probably could have went elsewhere on this, but I'm gonna throw a little bit at the Lakers as disappointing.
Man, those are some definitely some interesting choices. This is the one award I believe we're gonna have all episode long that none of our candidates are the same whatsoever. So You talked about your team being disappointed. I'm going to talk about my team, the Toronto Raptors, sitting 12th place in the East, breaking their 8-year streak of making the playoffs. And look, I understand that moving to Tampa, having basically playing every single game away, seeing the Tampa fans boo the Toronto Raptors too, that breaks my heart. That absolutely breaks my heart seeing that the Tampa fans boo the Raptors. Just bring them back to Toronto. But yeah, I mean, even still, I just think that they had the talent to still like compete, especially in the East. I mean, starting Aaron Baines for like 50 games did not help that whatsoever. He has been absolutely horrible this year. But I mean, I just thought this team was just good enough to even get to like a 7th or 8th seed. But no, we're 12th, and honestly, it's a disappointing year all around. A team that not a lot of people may think about, but the Portland Trailblazers for me, one of the most disappointing teams. And a big part of that was that the additions they made in the offseason, bringing in Robert Covington, bringing in Derek Jones Jr., their offseason was basically them focusing on trying to improve on the defensive end, which they were bottom 5 this year of last year. But this year they're just as bad. It's horrible to watch them. I mean, they're playing basically the same way they have been the last few years and just trying to outscore teams. And the fact that they like even bring in these guys and still not being able to improve on the defensive end, I have to point to the coaching on that one because you know that you're not going to get any defense from Dame or CJ at this point. Even making that trade for Norman Powell, I mean, you traded away someone in Gary Trent who was one of their better defenders, and you just got another offensive player. I mean, still questionable moves. I mean, they're ending the season right, but still, I'd see them as disappointing. And then I got the Boston Celtics. I mean, man, oh man. I mean, Jeff from Sportsby, if you're listening to this, I know you don't want to hear this, but man, oh man, this team has just not been good whatsoever. Whether it's been injuries, whether it's that center position, which they still haven't really figured out to this day. Obviously, the Jaylen Brown situation hurts now, but I had this team as like a top 3 seed in the East, and now they're 7th. And now at this point, I'm even worried about them getting out of the play-in tournament. Like it's just been a horrible year for the Celtics. I think this like the Celtics fans just seeing their Instagram and their Twitter accounts, it's just really depressing to see their fans crying about stuff. It's just really sad. And those are my 3 teams. But who do you have as the most disappointing team this year?
You have convinced me. You have changed it. You have given me a revelation because I didn't have a third team, so that's why I just went with the Lakers off the top of my head. I'm bumping out the Lakers. They're still disappointing, but I'm going with the Boston Celtics as the most I just remembered how hype I was on the Celtics coming into the season, and you just made me flash back to all the dumb things I said. Jason Tatum is going to push for MVP. This team is young. These athletes are going to be able to run these back-to-backs, no problem. 2 young studs, and they were bad with them or without them. It didn't matter. Kemba's fallen apart. Now we have this unfortunate injury to Jaylen Brown's wrist. I was so bummed when I saw that. I was like, these 2 young kids are going to get in, and I still have this like weird little bit of hope because I'm a big Jason Tatum fan. I think Jason Tatum is going to be sort of the next guy in the NBA.
Yeah.
He did have the COVID issues this year, but I was like, Danny Ainge is going to win GM of the year and he's going to make a trade for a center. Andre Drummond would be such a better fit on the Celtics than he is on the Lakers. I'm glad the Lakers have him because he is a good offensive rebounder, but he would have been such a better fit for the Celtics than he fits on the Lakers right now. I think LeBron's really going to have to try to like figure out how to get him some easy alley-oops and stuff when he gets going. The problem is they're going to be trying to figure that out in the first round against the Phoenix Suns. But yeah, you just, during your speech, I was like, TV's right. I don't know if you're picking the Celtics or not, but I'm like, yeah, you're right. The Celtics have been horribly disappointing.
Yeah. If you're going to Celtics, I'm also going to Celtics. I had them I had them as the second best team in the East coming into the season. I was so high on them. I thought that I mean, to be fair, the first 2 weeks, Jason Tatum looked like he was on the track to becoming an MVP candidate. Then COVID happened, and then they traded for Evan Fournier instead of trading for a center. This team is just a mess. I still got hope for the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum duo. It's just the surrounding pieces I think they really need to really like evaluate and see what they have to do moving forward. But man, I had this as like a guaranteed top 3 team, and now they're 7th, and I'm like, look, I don't even know if they're going to get out the play-in tournament with the way that they're playing. They lost to the Cavs yesterday by 8. and they were on an 11-game losing streak. I mean, this is as bad as it gets for a Celtics team with this much talent. I mean, yeah, the Celtics.
I
Are
went on a podcast and said they were going to the NBA Finals this year. I was like, I was saying that this was gonna. I remember my Instagram story after Jason Tatum hit that game-winning bank three against, I think it was like the Bucks in the opening game of the season.
Yeah.
I was like, this is gonna be a Jason Tatum fan account or something. Like, I was so hype on Tatum and the Celtics and the East, and it was gonna be a wrap. These young kids are going to run the East, and it has been a train wreck from Jump Street. So you're right. I don't know why I slipped on the Celtics. Trying to push it out of my memory, just all the dumb things I said.
Same here, man. Same here. This has been just not a good year whatsoever for the Celtics. But let's move on to the final fun award before we go back into the regular award show. Let's talk about highlight of the year. Obviously, I mean, highlights are better with the fans there, but still, there have been some fantastic highlights from this season. Here are my three candidates. We're going to first talk about Miles Bridges dunking all over Clint Capela. One of my favorite dunks of the year. If you guys haven't seen it, I mean, he was basically just going down the middle, and then, man, against one of the best rim protectors in basketball, that was probably one of the best dunks of the year. And then we're going to go to a game winner, Luka Doncic versus the Memphis Grizzlies, being double teamed at the 3-point line, falling forward, somehow hitting it and winning the game. I still don't know how he was able to hit that, but that's Luka magic for you, man. That's Luka magic. And then I hate to say this, but Anthony Edwards dunking all over the Toronto Raptors and Utah Watanabe. I mean, the way that he dunked on him, poor Utah was dunking, and then there's that picture of basically Anthony Edwards teabagging poor Utah Watanabe on the floor. It was so bad, but man, that was such a sick dunk. One of the best dunks I've seen in years. Tony, what are your top three highlights of the year?
So we have two or three, because the Bridges dunk I love too, and the Ant Edwards dunk was just to see him afterwards. Like, this is kind of when I really started to like him. He's looking at the Jumbotron. He's like, oh man, like that kid smile on his face, like, look, that's me. I just did that. I just teabagged this homie on national television. Like, oh man, I'm pretty good. He's like fixing his collar. Like, that dunk is so furious and it's contested. I really love that play and his reaction afterwards. Like, look, Bob, I'm on TV. It was great. The last thing, it's not necessarily a play. It is the Clint Capela 10-block triple-double. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He gets 10 blocks. This is the crazy thing. He didn't foul. He didn't commit one foul in that game and got 10 blocks. So it's not necessarily a single play, but it was that fact that he recorded 10 blocks in this NBA and did not record one foul. I could have picked any of those 10 swats. There probably were some that were more, impressive than others, but that was just a great stat line and stat to me.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good one. I mean, Clint Capela saved me in fantasy that week for sure. I mean, I couldn't pull it off at the end, but man, Clint Capela was a beast there, just getting rebounds, getting blocks, and that game was honestly a fun watch, fun defensive plays, which you don't see much in this NBA. My highlight of the year, though, again, I hate to say it, but that Anthony Edwards dunk was just too nasty. That was just too nasty. Just him, like, I mean, you mentioned him just looking up the Jumbotron. I mean, he was showing, like, Jordan McLaughlin or whatever his name is. He was like, look at that, man. Oh, I just did that. Yeah, that was really cool. That was really cool. And poor Utah was being memed all over Instagram and Twitter. I felt bad for the guy because he's actually had a solid season for us, but oh, man, that dunk, especially the way that Utah fell to the floor back first as well. I mean, you can't get that's as good as a poster you're gonna get. But what's your highlight of the year?
It's that one. And so since we've already covered pretty much everything on, I will say this: I'm not into Top Shot, which means it's going to be famous and huge, and anybody who invests in it is going to make a ton of money, because that's just how my life works. But if I could have one Top Shot, that's what it would be. Like, that would be the one, like, highlight, 3D futuristic card that you could own. Yeah. That is it right there.
Yeah. I personally would not want that poster because it's against the Raptors, but man, I could watch, like, honestly, if it wasn't the Raptors, I would watch that literally every day just because it's such a sick play. It's so nice.
He didn't, and that the difference between the Bridges and him is that Bridges kind of throws it. He's got a little extension away. It's still impressive,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. But Edwards actually grabs the rim like he's about to rip it from the backboard. It's ridiculous.
He used like Yuta Watanabe as like elevation as well, just to get even higher than he was. I mean, that was just a nasty dunk, and it should be highlight of the year. Basically, if anyone has seen it, oh my goodness, it's been nasty. But let's go back to the normal awards. We got 3 more awards to go. Obviously, we're gonna save the granddaddy of them all for the last one. But let's go. Let's not talk about the players right now. Let's talk about the guys with the polos now, right? It's not the suit and ties anymore. It's the polos on the sideline. Let's talk about Coach of the Year. Tony, who are your 3 candidates for this award?
Okay. It's pretty simple. It is Monty Williams, it is Quinn Snyder, and Tom Thibodeau. So all 3 of these guys put their teams in positions. Now, earlier I had the Sixers on my list as a surprise team, but for me, it's not that much of a surprise that Doc did it, right? Like, because he's a veteran winning coach. And so it's like, oh, he's done this before with the Celtics, with the Clippers, even in Orlando. Like, he's had success. It's the other 3 coaches that I named where I'm like, okay, this was a more Herculean effort what you accomplished.
Yeah, for sure. And we have the exact same candidates: Quinn Snyder, Tom Thibodeau, Monty Williams. I mean, a lot of people, the thing that's going to hurt Monty Williams in this conversation is that people are going to give a lot of the credit to Chris Paul, who many dubbed to be the on-court coach, but he's done a lot. I mean, he's carried that momentum from the bubble last year, going 8-0, and just continued to help improve his team. And he's been I mean, not a lot of people talk about him, but he's been a massive part to that team's success. Tom Thibodeau, we talked about the Knicks enough. I mean, he has just instilled his culture there, and it's been resulting in wins and success. And Quinn Snyder, I mean, the biggest thing that he has implemented to his system, which he hasn't in previous years, is just shooting the 3 ball at will. They have the players to do it. Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, Ingles, Jordan Clarkson. I could just go on. And he has implemented that to his system, and that is what elevated them from a good team to an elite team. And we're going to have to see if this is going to translate to the playoffs. But man, he has done some wonders for that Utah Jazz team, who haven't made a lot of moves in the offseason. This is just like in-house growth as well. So that has been extremely impressive. But Tony, who is your Coach of the Year?
Okay, so I've been on the fence, and I decided that in show I was going to make up my mind on the fly. Whatever I was feeling, that's what I was good. This is literally how I did this. I wrote down the 3 names of the guys I thought, and I could not pick because I had different reasons for each of them. You know, like what Thibodeau was able to do in a market like New York, you know, with so many question marks, and who's going to be the real star, and, you know, to get Derrick Rose, all that stuff, right? You know, Monty Williams, he has CP3, but I mean, really the first time in the playoffs in forever. But in this moment right now, I have just decided Quinn Snyder. And for this main reason, every coach of the year that I can think of, like I said, Doc Rivers could have been on my list of 3 or whatever. They all have an MVP candidate. I don't believe that the Jazz have an MVP candidate. It's sort of like I keep comparing this Jazz team, when healthy, to the Pistons, you know, not the early Pistons, but the 06, 04 Pistons in that gap there, because it's so unselfish. This Jazz team shoots the 3 ball better because it's a generational thing, but the way they play team defense and they rally around that, I just have to say, if you can have the number 1 seed in the Western Conference with no legitimate, I can make a case for Donovan Mitchell if he plays 68 games, but the injury hurt him. Because at the midseason, I had Mitchell at 5, but I'm going with Quinn Snyder as doing this without a locked in MVP candidate.
Yeah, that's a very, very good choice. This was a tough one for me because, like you mentioned, you can make a very solid argument for all 3 of these teams. but I do not want to. I don't want to like downplay Monty Williams, what he's done for the team is because Chris Paul joined. But I'm giving this award to Monty Williams. You could tell that he started implementing his system, his philosophy to the team. Kind of you saw that in the NBA bubble, and the way that he's able to continue to do that, have the Phoenix Suns be top 10 on both ends of the court. I mean, Chris Paul, yes, he has been absolutely fantastic, but Monty Williams has drawn up the game plan, and this is like the first time the Suns have been in the playoffs in 11 years, and a lot of that has to do with how much of a motivator he is. I know a lot of like he's just a player's coach. No matter player that used to play for him who wants to talk about him, he's gonna talk about how he's a player's coach. He understands the players, obviously being a former player himself, and man, he has done such a great job for that Suns team. And I think that he deserves to win Coach of the Year. But Quinn Snyder, again, a very good choice. Tom Thibodeau, a good choice.
Yep, I think I will be fine with whoever wins Coach of the Year. You will not get any argument out of me.
Same here. Same here. Let's go to the second last award. We're going to be talking about the Defensive Player of the Year. And I think this year has gotten a lot more buzz than any other year because there are two people on different sides of the spectrum. What's more important, an all-around defender like a Ben Simmons or the rim protecting big man like a Rudy Gobert? So yeah, that has been a massive discussion, and I think the Defensive Player of the Year has been basically talked about a lot more than it has in previous years. But here are my three candidates. Rudy Gobert, once again, two-time winner before. The Jazz are still a top 3 defense. He leads the league in blocks, 2.7 blocks per game. He's leading the league in defensive win shares, and he's also one of the best in rebounding rate, which is extremely important if you're a defensive player, being able to get the rebounds. I, for one, say that big man defense is more important than perimeter defense. And over the past few years, you've seen Rudy Gobert's impact on the team on the defensive end and how it has correlated to wins. The other candidates I have, Ben Simmons, one of the guys in the league you could trust defending positions 1 to 4. Very good. Test taking a dip offensively for sure, but man, he's such a good defender. And then number 3, I got Bam Adebayo. I don't think people talk about how great of a defender he is at such a young age. The Heat are finally turning it up. They are still a top 5 defense in basketball. And Bam Adebayo's switchability, his ability to defend the rim, perimeter, is just so good. And I believe he is one of my candidates. Tony, who do you got as your 3 candidates?
So I agree on the two heavies there. And when I talk about my winner, I will spread some more shine as to why I think he is the Defensive Player of the Year. But the guy that I threw a little bit of love his way, he was in my highlight segment, and that's Clint Capela. I think that his rebounding, his blocking ability, yes, he's behind Gobert in the blocks category, but I just think he's a really big part of some of the success that the Hawks have had. And if the Hawks had better team defense, I think he could really stand out a lot more in this category. It's just a lot of times when I'm watching, the transition defense with the Hawks isn't good. I'm always seeing guys get smoked to the rim, like Trae Young's getting burned or John Collins didn't make the right move. And I think it's just there's a lot of young players, and once they learn how to focus and play defense right, it's also too like it's just such an athletic league that playing team defense really is there. I was going to open up by saying, like, now hear me out. Alex Caruso may not be
Oh, okay, let's get into this. Let's go.
No, I'm messing with you. I do love Alex Caruso and his defense, but he's not a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic defender, but not on this level.
Yeah. I like your point about Clint Capela there. I mean, I honestly really want to show him some love and put him in this category, but man, the Hawks team defense is not doing him any doing him any favors. And I think with Clint Capela, although he isn't kind of like the anchor that Gobert is and stuff like that, same thing with Bam Adebayo, but he makes up for a lot of the mistakes that the Hawks do on the defense, and they trust him because he will be there in the paint. I mean, he did get dunked on by Miles Bridges, but he'll always be there. He'll always jump with them. And that's admirable. And I think he is a big reason why the Hawks are in the position they are, like how good they have been this season. But yeah, that team defense, man, oh man,
It's so
it's rough.
bad.
It's
It's
rough.
so bad to watch the Hawks play defense.
It is. It is. But in terms of my winner, I kind of hinted at it before. I'm not afraid to say it. Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is my defensive player of the year. I think that he is the best player under the Utah Jazz. He is the most impactful player. And a lot of their success is correlated to how well he does on the defensive end. Um, I mentioned the stats earlier, one of the best rebounders in basketball. And he's honestly, I mean, this is defensive player of the year, but he's also improved his offensive game this year. But yeah, his defensive impact, I think, although he cannot switch much like a Ben Simmons, stuff like that, I think his impact is second to none. He is my defensive player of the year.
Love it. You ready for a little offensive French accent? Ho, ho, ho. Here we go. Je voudrais un Ben Simmons.
Wow, you're using his accent and not naming Rudy Gobert.
You like that?
Disrespectful.
I took French for 5 years, and all I could remember off the top of my head right now was I like a Ben Simmons. That's terrible. Feel free to cut this out before I get canceled by all of Montreal, Canada up there. I also did the Pepe Le Pew, which I'm pretty sure is like the next thing to get whacked off the internet for being offensive. Here's Ben Simmons and the reason that I like him the best. I said earlier in the year when you saw what he did to Donovan Mitchell, who was just on an absolute tear, making him throw a chair, like getting ejected or whatever happened in that game when Ben Simmons was guarding him. And I believe this. We are seeing every night teams taking 30 3-pointers plus 3-pointers a game. I just believe that defending the perimeter and that ability to lock up, that is going to shine more in the regular season. I have also watched Rudy Gobert absolutely get toasted by like AD and like some of the more skilled guys. Yes, he deters people from coming into the lane, which I think really helps their team defense. And it helps their perimeter defenders stay in front of their guy because if they turn the corner, they're coming into Rudy, right? But 15, 20 years ago, Gobert would have been hands down amazing because people were still trying to get to the basket on a regular basis. Now I'm just seeing people, it just rotates around the world, and then some guy who shoots 37% gets a corner three. The thing is that if you can play the smothering defense on the perimeter, if Ben Simmons can lock up your point guard, I want to see Ben Simmons lock up James Harden, a healthy Kyrie Irving, at the end in a Brooklyn Sixers Eastern Conference Finals. But I believe the more important defense to me is the perimeter defense because of where the game is at now and the skilled players who have the ball being able to keep them from ever getting to the center.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a good point. I mean, especially with the amount of threes that the NBA is shooting like nowadays, it is definitely important. I still believe that getting rid of the easiest shot in basketball, which is a layup, is extremely important, and that's why I have Rudy Gobert as a winner. But people will make the argument for Simmons. I could definitely see where they're coming from. I know Ben Simmons has been bigging himself up all year. I mean, I don't know if that's like deterring me away from him as well, because it feels like he's talking about this award every other day. But man, Rudy Gobert has already won 2 of these. I believe he's on his way to a third one. But Ben Simmons, yeah, that's still definitely a good choice. Let's get to the big one. Let's get to the Big Mac. Let's get to the freaking Whopper, the granddaddy of them all, MVP. The one that everyone has been freaking debating every year, all season long, the one that everyone's talking about. Let's talk MVP. Tony, we're going to start it off with you this time. Who are your 3 MVP candidates?
So, my MVP candidates in no particular order. Throwing out CP3, putting Steph in the conversation, and the Joker. Now, I only had one of these guys on my midseason list, which you gave me a hard time for on the Friday show we used to do on Project Dribble, right?
Yeah.
You were like, how can you not have Joker on your list? What's up with all this Steph Curry slander? Everybody who knows me, I think that Steph Curry gets overvalued, right? And I believe we'll see it again in the playoffs where the team defense steps up and it gets harder to make a lot of these three-pointers. He's amazing. He's wonderful. He's top 20 all time. We could get into all that stuff. He's wonderful. What he's been able to do this year really did kind of make me turn a corner on Steph Curry. I didn't think he could carry this Warriors team to a playoff berth. So I put him in there at number 3. Embiid missed too many games. Harden switched teams, quit at the beginning of the year, in my estimation, missed too many games late. Other guys that were in the conversation at my midway point also got injured. Guys like I said, Donovan Mitchell was at my 5. He got injured. So that's who I'm going with. CP3, Steph, and the Joker.
Interesting choices. There's a lot of arguments to be made here. We have one guy. We have like in the same as in our candidates. We both have Nikola Jokic. People talk about him every day. This guy has just been carrying the load on offense for the Denver Nuggets. Has been absolutely impressive to see. I know people don't want to talk about this for the 3rd year in a row, but I have Giannis Antetokounmpo still in my MVP discussions. I know he's won 2 years in a row, but he's still putting up the numbers 28, 11, and 6. Still like the anchor of their defense. He's even gotten higher in terms of field goal percentage. I think still deserves to be in the conversation. And then I also have Joel Embiid. Again, this is where my rule earlier is coming into effect. I know like injuries are a huge thing in terms of these awards, but I'm going to give it a little pass, especially with this weird season that we're in. And Embiid is having the best season of his career by far. Almost 30 points a game, almost 11 rebounds, 52% from the field, highest percentage from 3, and is just killing teams like on all 3 levels. I mean, he is attempting the most free throws in the NBA, and he's like hitting them at 86%. Man, but yeah, he would be definitely like in terms of him winning the award. I wish I could have him a bit higher, but yeah, those are my 3 candidates. But Tony, who do you have as this season's NBA MVP?
Okay, so before I release that, the problem with Embiid and me is that if he missed the games because of like COVID protocol restrictions or something, it would be one thing. But that's not the case why he's missing so many games. Like I believe he's maybe the best player in the NBA right now. Like if he's healthy and playing all the time, he's unstoppable, he's amazing, and he can play defense. Like I really believe he might be the best player in basketball. He's Shaq with a 3-pointer. It's freaking insane what this guy can do. Like, I love Joel Embiid. I have a jersey. I should have hung that jersey today. Anyways, my MVP, and I fought you on this tooth and nail all the way, all season long, every time we would bring him up. It's the Joker. This guy, what he's been able to do, and the Nuggets, got better. Not better, but they like kept winning when they lost their point guard, because their point guard is actually a 7-foot giant guy with no vertical who plays point center at the top of the key. He's absolutely sensational to watch. I believe there'll be another narrative with an MVP with an early exit in the playoffs, which will not be his fault, as to where I believe I could make a case that it's Giannis's fault that they didn't get past it in the past. I believe he will do everything he possibly can in a series to help his team win. And that will be averaging a triple-double in a series second-round exit loss or, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to agree with you there. My MVP this year is the Joker, Nikola Jokic. The fact that they're, I think like 13-4 or 12-4 when Jamal Murray is down just shows that how much of an impact the Joker actually makes. And it's so like, how do I want to say it? It's just he's so unassuming. Like he doesn't feel like he's trying out there. He just does it so casually, like a full court pass, a pass like to a cutter, him hitting the 3 ball at such a high rate, almost 40% this year. he has just made such a huge impact on that Denver Nuggets team. And they have like a top 4 seed in the West, and for like a good chunk of that, no Jamal Murray. They obviously added Aaron Gordon midseason, and he has benefited from playing beside Nikola Jokic. He just does everything on the court, and it's honestly something that I've never seen from a player of his stature, player of his size. It's honestly like a joy to watch. And the thing about him come playoff time is that in years past he's gotten better, which is scary for teams when you go up against him. I mean, we talk about Paul George and how he has like lowered his game in the playoffs. We could talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo struggles, Joel Embiid's. The Joker elevates his game, and you just know that's going to happen come playoff time again. Whether they make it past the first round or not, we're going to have to wait and see. But he's not going to go down without fighting Nikola Jokic, man. He has just been absolutely on a tear this year. And he hasn't missed a game. And he hasn't missed a game as well. So, good on Nikola Jokic. We both agree that he is the MVP.
Yep. That's why he's mine. You play all 60-something games in this craziness. You don't get, you stay in the hotel rooms. You wear the masks so you don't miss anything there. You look like, you should be an accountant. Your body looks like that of somebody who crunches numbers all day, but yet you dominate on the court. I love the Joker. And he was hands down. I want to talk to you about this Giannis business. What his numbers went down in scoring and rebound. Like his numbers went down, the team record went down. Why is he still in the conversation?
He still has the same impact, even though his team is third. Oh, they might be second by the end of the season. There's still a little bit of hope they can get the second seed, but I think a lot of people why they don't have him there is that they've seen this before, but I don't think that's a reason why they shouldn't. It's kind of like the LeBron treatment in the sense where we see LeBron do this year in, year out, and people just kind of get tired of it. We're getting to that point with Giannis, and I don't want people to like completely disregard what he's doing, although with the playoff mishaps in the past, he's still putting up amazing numbers, and I don't want to discredit him like through any of that. I still have him as an MVP candidate. I know like a lot of people are actually going to disagree with that. I'm 100% sure that's the case, but yeah, I still think he's having an amazing season in terms of him playing at an MVP level.
Love it.
But yeah, those are all the awards. I know that was a lot to take in, but let me know down below who are your guys' winners, even for the fun awards, the usual awards. Just leave it down in the comment section below. DM either of us if you don't disagree with any of our picks. Just comment down in the Instagram post. Do whatever you need to do. But this was a long episode, probably the longest episode of the season. Congrats to whoever won. They're probably not going to hear this, but they definitely put on a show this season. Before we sign off, Tony, tell us what's going on with you with Warzone Sports Network and why they should check you out going forward.
Absolutely. Appreciate everybody who tuned into this. And Warzone Sports Network, go to YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's all over the place. Join the conversation. We want to talk sports with people. We want you to explain to us why we're wrong about our foolish sports predictions over at the Warzone Sports Network. Thank you for having me, TB.
Of course. And we're definitely going to have you on during the playoffs. And expect more guests coming through because we're going to try and get some people here to talk some playoff basketball, which is coming very, very soon. But yeah, this is where we're going to end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to follow @TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other content. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode. And just show some love on any of the podcast networks. Leave a positive review. I really do appreciate you all. I'm going to have all the links to Warzone Sports Network and Tony's Instagram in my link tree, so definitely go check that out. But this is where we're going to end things. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. TV signing out. Tony signing out. Take it easy, guys. Peace.